Let's take a check of the markets. They are continuing to be strongly in negative territory, 445 points right now. The Dow, moments ago, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt at the White House was pressed again about what we're seeing, that huge trade-off yesterday, continuing today. Here's what she said.
How high is the pain threshold for President Trump and for this White House as you watch some of the turbulence in the stock markets, as you field concerns from businesses and potentially see some of those approval ratings drop in the short term? How much is he willing to stomach that, and will he stay committed to his vision for tariffs even as all of this comes up?
Well, the president has been working hard every single day to alleviate the pain that was inflicted by the previous administration through massive deregulation, through drill baby drill, as we like to call it, unleashing the might of our energy industry, which we know will ultimately drive down costs for consumers here at home. And again, as I mentioned, the president is intent on signing tax cuts for the American people to put more money back into their pockets, which will ultimately unlock consumer confidence. And again, I'll reiterate the president's words in layman's terms, as he does best. The president wants the American people to have so much more money in their pockets, they don't know what to do with it. That's the goal of this administration, through tariffs, through tax cuts, through deregulation, and through unleashing the potential of our energy industry. I have two more quick notes before I wrap up.
I want to bring in Vaughn Hilliard. Vaughn, she didn't really answer the question about sort of what is the pain threshold for a lot of people as they're looking at their 401k. If they've been fired by DOJ, they may have already reached that point. But I wonder what you make of what you heard throughout this press briefing, which has ended now.
Right. I think that this is where the messaging of all of this from the White House is very difficult, because the numbers don't lie at this point. Not only is the stock market tumbling over the course of the last 2 weeks, but also commodity prices, U.S. agricultural products that are domestically produced and reliant on exports to Mexico and Canada. The prices of those commodities, which make the profits for millions of Americans who are those producers, but also manufacturers here domestically, are looking at the markets out of concern. And I think that that is where actually in just a couple hours from now, President Trump is set to meet with the Business Roundtable, which is one of the most powerful business lobbying groups in the country, if not the most powerful. It's comprised of 200 plus CEOs, from Apple to Jamie Dimon to AT&T to Chevron. This is a moment here for President Trump as he goes into what is going to be a private, no press, no cameras allowed meeting with these CEOs here in Washington at 5 p.m. at a time in which this group of corporate leaders have been at the forefront of being vocal in their opposition against these sweeping tariffs because of the impact that it has on not only their domestic production, but also the reliance on a great many goods that go into the parts of the actual products that they are behind. And in a typical group that has been very vocal as being free trade, that is run counter to so often the policies that President Trump has sought to advocate on behalf of. And you heard from Caroline Leavitt here in this briefing saying the day of America last globalist policies are over. And in many ways, these top CEOs who are watching the stock market fall here are individuals who have built businesses reliant on not only export markets, but also trading partners that are based overseas in China and Indonesia, in Mexico and Canada. The manufacturing is just an example. Mary Barra, the CEO of GM, is one of those CEOs who is on the board of the Business Roundtable, who he will be meeting with in about 2.5 hours. And so this is a very difficult time, not only for the American consumer, but also these corporate leaders as they are set to meet with President Trump with these numbers that are indicating a downturn in the American economy, but also a messaging out of this cabinet and from the president himself that suggested that he knows all well that there could be disturbances to the economy, and it's not very clear exactly how long they are willing to allow those disturbances to last until they were to reverse their policies that this administration has advocated and implemented.